Welcome to another episode of RELICS Radio. This is a family-friendly show, so the entire family can join us as we talk metal detecting, relic, and treasure hunting. You can also call into the show at 270-495-0315 or join in the chat and post any comments or questions you might have. RELICS Radio is also now syndicated on the Cutting Edge Radio Network and is broadcast around the world. You're listening to RELICS Radio of Southern Kentucky and Middle Tennessee. And you are listening to another live RELICS Radio. Well, you're listening live if you're on the Spreaker app. And I see the chat is filling up. We've already got a lot of live people here on Spreaker that are listening to the show. And we want to welcome everyone that is catching the show through the syndicated version, the Cutting Edge Radio Network. And we know that not everybody can catch the show live, and sometimes you have to catch the archive. So hello to all of you as well that will be catching a rerun of the show, I guess you could say. But we appreciate it. And by the way, you can get those archives on Spreaker, or you can get them on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, anywhere that there are podcasts out, we are there. And I want to welcome all of you that are in the live chat. As I said, wow, a lot of people in. A lot of people are coming in. And I am your host, Digging with Seven. I am in Southern Kentucky tonight and got a couple of very special guests, two good friends of mine, Derek Asklar and Craig Talley. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lee, for having us on.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this. I listen to you guys all the time. I was telling you before we started up tonight, I tried to, and by the way, guys, they have a show. It's called Hardcore Metal Detecting Podcast. It's right here on Spreaker. They're on Saturday night at 8 o'clock Eastern, and then they're on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern time. And that's 6 o'clock in the morning for me, so I miss a few of those. Apologize for that.
It's all right. Getting up that early in the morning, need lots of coffee. That's why we named it what we did.
Yeah,
I kind of
go ahead, Craig.
Altered my sleeping patterns to do that, but it wasn't. It's fun doing it, so
it is, and
wasn't that big.
Y'all talk about a variety of subjects on that. And all of them are interesting, I mean, you talk about settings, you talk about sites, you talk just a variety of subjects that anybody that metal detects, find interesting. And you got international listeners on that show in the morning, don't you guys?
Yeah, it seems to be doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Craig.
Well, I think it's over 131 countries, and we've had, people from Japan, quite a few from New Zealand and Australia. It seems to be growing in Australia.
Yeah, we got some from Australia as well. Doesn't it just blow you away whenever you go and look at the analytics of the show, and you got people in countries you didn't even know those countries existed? Am I right?
Oh, yeah, we had to look up stuff.
Yeah, I know it. Go ahead, Craig.
One of them was Mongolia.
Yeah.
I kind of knew where that was, but Derek was asking me, we got Malta. Where's that? And I said, I think that's near Spain in like the Mediterranean or something. I bet they have a lot of treasure there.
Oh, you know that they do.
But there's a lot of I've done research, and there's like last I saw there was 3 major podcasting one in Czechoslovakia, one in Britain, and one in Netherlands that were carrying our shows. And
yeah, we even had South Africa too. A couple weeks ago, there was somebody from South Africa listening, which was cool.
It is, and when you talk about treasure hunting, we may not speak the same language. They may have a different dialect or a different language than we do. But when, in the case of metal detecting, when you pick up a metal detector, and Derek, I've heard you say this before, you watch videos and you can't understand anything that the guy or the gal is saying that's doing the video, but you're able to listen to the machine, and the machine is a universal language, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Craig and I are finding that out more and more over the years that, I've been in, business with several people from overseas and Bulgaria and stuff like that. And, I couldn't understand a lot of them, but man, just listening to that machine and seeing how they're working it, and looking at if they do show the settings and stuff like that, it gives me a pretty good idea of kind of what to expect on both ways, whether the machine is doing what they say or if it's not hitting targets that I would consider a newer machine to be able to hit, how it's sounding. And there's a lot of nuance in these machines. We talk about that. Craig and I talk about that a lot. But from the aspect of how do you describe verbally a nuance? I mean, it's very, very difficult. And, you hear us say, spit or grind or raspy or, but the machines will, kind of let you know what they're capable of doing. And I like watching what people are, because it gives me a lot of ideas. I learn what to expect from them. So,
yeah. And I've heard Craig talk about the nuances, and a lot of people that are new to metal detecting, they don't know what that is, do they, Craig?
No, I'm non-visual. I'm totally. I didn't even know people visualized when I was a kid, and it's like I can hear somebody's voice, and one time, and a couple days later, I can hear them on the phone. And I know who. I'd say, "Oh, so and so, I know who it is," and they go, "How'd you know that?" And I said, "It's your voice." Your voice has a nuance to it. If you want to kind of, have an analogy to, what it is with metal detecting. But there's certain machines I could hear when I went over a silver coin. I knew it exactly. I didn't even have a meter. It was basically a relic machine. There was a couple different ones that I could hear the nuance for silver coins.
Yeah.
With the Bliss tool, I could hear brass and copper. Big time. I could tell you. I remember one time I done this Confederate button about 14 inches deep, in this place that everybody told us that, oh, don't even go there. OVM plates had been found there, and place has been hammered by the best people. And I walk down this road and I get a signal, and I told the guy, I think that's a button. And I dig down, and it's a staff officer's Confederate staff. And that's another thing. People always say the places are hunted out. And I go, well, where's that place that you're saying is hunted out?
Those are the places that I like to go. It really is.
Yeah, sign me up.
Yeah,
come on over and invite us over.
Because that either that or people will say, yeah, I've hunted that spot and it produced real good, except that corner over there, and there's a lot of iron and trash over there. That's where I'm heading, because
right.
People, when they're coming through and they hit that spot, they just pass right on through just as quick as they can and get into those, places where there's less noise and less trash. But you got to really, really work slow on it. Go ahead.
Oh, good.
Well, I was going.
Oh no, I was just going to say that gets into the theory. We talk on the radio show a lot, and we're dealing with such a wide spectrum of listeners. Some people that are brand new to the hobby, thinking about getting into the hobby. Of course, all these guys on chat right now there's a wealth of information across the board down here, and trying to keep the show interesting for everybody can be kind of difficult, because we kind of get ahead of ourselves sometimes, and I have like especially my wife will tell me, hey, you need to back up a little bit and kind of explain that better, because somebody that's new to the hobby has no idea what you're talking about. So we try to backtrack and go both ways on that, so that we can keep audience interested in listening. And it brings up a lot of questions on chat. I love the chat on feature on this Spreaker.com, because it enables Bill Marsh and Gavin McGregor and all these guys that they listen to your show too, and to throw out questions that they have, and we can kind of get on them faster.
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, you've got a dichotomy of people that listen. You got some people that have, we will have probably in the new year, maybe even tonight, we've got people that have just got metal detectors, and they've never used one. And so, they're just as new as they can be. They're green. They know, probably very little about metal detecting. And then we got people on here, that have hunted for years and years, decades, and they know a lot more. So we have to address both audiences and everything that falls in between in order to keep interest. And, that's why on this show we have, various people that come on, some with a lot of experience. And I've talked to some people about being guests, and they would say, I don't know, I've not been hunting that long, and I'm not that great a hunter, but I've watched their YouTube channels, and I said, there are new people in the hobby that want to hear your perspective as well, and so
absolutely,
yeah, and so you offer a little bit to everybody. Let's get a little bit of background here before the first commercial break. We got about 4 minutes, but Craig, how long have you been hunting, and what got you into it to start with?
I was an athlete, and I was into tennis, and I was starting to get injuries and stuff, and I was, kind of at where I was, losing interest, because I was, starting to hurt a lot. And I was 33 at the time, and it was 1986, and a friend of mine I played tennis with is a lawyer. Right before we played tennis one day, he showed me a gold coin he just dug, and I didn't even know he metal detected. And did nothing about it. I remembered seeing a lady at Ocean City metal detecting, and this woman said that she'd found hundreds of thousands of coins over the years. And that was when I was a kid. But I got interested. I went to his house. He showed me all this stuff. Didn't even know. I never heard of a large cent. I never even held a Civil War bullet. I was like, oh my God, I said, you have any used machines you want to sell? And he goes, yeah. So I bought a Tesoro Royal Saber, and there was a housing development getting ready to be knocked down, and they were moving everybody out, and it was like 12 acres. And I ended up digging, I think, 3,000 coins and 159 silver coins out of that place, plus bullets and other things, jewelry. And so that's when I got started. I got hooked to the point where I stopped playing tennis altogether after about 4 months. I started going out. I was even going out before work for a while, for an hour. Just, before work.
It just grabs you, doesn't it? I mean, it just hooks you. And, if you're new to the hobby, you need to start right now negotiating with your wife, because it's going to take a lot of your time. You're going to want to spend as much time as you can in the field. So you need to kind of schedule things around to where, you don't spend too many nights in the doghouse. But, so how many years altogether then, Craig, have you been hunting?
I'm like in my 34th year right now.
34. And, you've seen a lot of change in those 34 years, because I was figuring up the other day. I started in 1975, so that's 44 years. Now that's not continuous, really hard hunting like I do now, or really dedicated to the hobby like I am now. But 44 years, me and you have seen a lot of changes in the technology and everything about metal detecting.
Yeah, the biggest thing is about 2011, I got into YouTube, when it first was, just getting kind of started, and there wasn't many people doing YouTube videos, and I did a couple on tennis, and then I was thinking, I don't know if I want to do this or not. And somebody said, well, why don't you do one on metal detecting? You do it all the time. I thought, yeah, that'd be good. And so I had an Explorer. I was using Mindlamp Explorer at the time, and I did a couple videos, and people started reaching out to me, and I started getting some subscribers and stuff. And it just kind of, it started, connecting with people after that. And, it's just grown and grown and grown. And I got into Facebook, and now I'm into Instagram is real big. That's kind of the, taking over Facebook as far as instant messages and all kinds of stuff like that, and people putting up big, photos and little videos. Twitter's getting bigger too. There's more people that are relic hunters and metal detectors on that now than there was. So I help people. Like I helped a guy in Albania, and he had to translate to Russian English in order to talk to me, and it got so where stuff didn't translate even doing that. It just their Bulgarian is a weird. It's a Cyrillic. It's got Cyrillic alphabet, which it doesn't even look like anything we do. But anyway, I started sending him short videos showing me ground balance in the machine, showing what the settings were. And I did this like for people in Turkey and for people in Ukraine. When we were doing the Bliss tool, I was helping people all over the world. And, the only way I could realize, we kept going back and forth, and the language just, Turkish doesn't even translate over to anything, I don't think. It's like flowers when they write it. But, sending little short videos, all of a sudden the guys knew what to do. And I started getting all kinds of people from Turkey. I started realizing, wow, that must be a good country, because I used to sell
a lot of treasure.
Yeah.
I used to sell Tesoro years ago, and I hooked up with a friend of mine. I was dating a girl that father was a Turkish admiral. So he came to my shop and he saw the metal detectors, and he ordered two, one for underwater and one for land. And you weren't even supposed to have them in Turkey. And he owned 14 acres of beachfront property on the Aegean Sea. And when he got back there, I got a message that he found a gold ring right on the beach with a big ruby in it. And he said that I never heard from him again, but he told me that his brother lived near where Mount Arafat is, where Noah's Ark is, and that he roamed the deserts looking for Roman stuff. There was Roman stuff all over the place in Turkey, and so I don't know what happened. Over the years, you got to be kind of secretive. I help a lot of guys in Ukraine, and they're all in camo with camo Jeeps. I mean, it's black archaeology is what they call it. But it's all around the Crimean Sea. That whole area is like the mother lode on Earth of treasure. Yeah, goes back to the Thracians.
Yep. Hey guys, we need to take a commercial break right here, and we'll be right back with Derek Asklar and Craig Talley. T-shirts are a perfect way to get your brand recognized, whether you're talking about a business, a club, a sports team, your YouTube channel, or whatever. But you may have asked, where can I get quality, affordable shirts on demand? Well, I'm glad you asked. RELICS RADIO uses DetectTees.com for all of our T-shirts, long sleeve shirts, and hoodies. That's DetectTees.com. Ken and Mark Guthrie make quality shirts that last, they ship quick, and best of all, they're affordable. So if you need customized apparel, then go to DetectTees.com and be sure and tell them that RELICS Radio sent you. Yeah, be sure and tell them that RELICS Radio sent you. Ken and Mark Guthrie are great guys. They make great products, and Be sure whenever you holler at them that you get one of the RELICS Radio T-shirts or the hoodie, and come summertime, get one of those cooling towels. They are great as well. And we've got on the line here tonight Derek Asklar and Craig Talley from the Hardcore Metal Detecting podcast that it is on every Saturday night right here on Spreaker at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then they also have a morning show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 o'clock Eastern. Derek, I'm going to jump over to you. How long have you been detecting, and what got you started?
Oh, I got started, it's been about almost 20 years. I think it's going to be 20 years this coming year here. I've been loving it. I've always wanted to metal detect, even before when I was a kid and stuff like that. And of course, my dad and I tried to get one of those through a Popular Mechanics, trying to make a metal detector, because we didn't. It was something he never really bought me, and it wasn't really without the internet and stuff like that. All you had to go by is magazines and stuff like that. Couldn't afford one, but I got into it about. It was right around 2000, 1999 or 2000. Got into it and went out and bought a bounty hunter, just a regular old machine, pretty cheap, because I didn't know if I was even going to like the hobby or whatever, but I always wanted to find treasure, find whatever. It didn't matter what it was. Of course, you always want to find coins and gold and all that, but I quickly found out that, I like finding just about anything. We're walking on treasure all the time, whether it be relics or, some kind of ferrous or non-ferrous stuff, people just forgotten about or dropped or whatever else. And I guess it wasn't that long before I bought my first MXT from White's there and used it for several years, and then got into the White Spectrum V3i, which was a really good learning machine. It taught me a lot about how machines work, recovery delays and correlate and all these big fancy words, but it had so many adjustments on it. It gave me an ability to try to really want to figure it out. As a matter of fact, almost caused a divorce in our house, because I think I spent more time programming that machine than using it. My wife had funny names for all my.
I hear Pauline back there laughing.
Yeah. And she had a name, like the Whites was my mistress, and then I got the Bliss tool, and that was the whatever. She had names for every one of them, and when I got into the White's machines, and I really like those machines and everything, but I got everything I could get out of it, and I started looking at different machines. Craig and I are always doing that, looking for new and better machines, and that's when I got into the Bliss tool. And Craig and I got into it at the same time. I think we were the first 25 guys in the U.S. to get those machines, and we became friends. I mean, that's how we met, is over the internet. Matter of fact, we never met in person for 2 or 3 years after that. And we went into business together and then sold the machines here in the U.S. or distributors here in the U.S. and Canada. And, we learned a lot. We did find out that the business side of it was a little bit more than we wanted to deal with. It wasn't what we were really looking for in the hobby. We enjoy more, I think, kind of teaching other people how to metal detect or explaining how metal detectors work and everything. And, started doing videos just after Craig did, I think. And, traveled around the U.S. a little bit and went to a lot of different hunts that they have going on, like the digging in Virginia and the CWPPO and the Florida hunts and all that, and just met so many good people. This hobby, we're blessed with so many good people in the hobby that we're just all like-minded. It doesn't matter where you come from, so to speak, and what you do for a living or whatever. When it comes to metal detecting, we all kind of get along really good. And I guess that's where, just love finding relics and stuff. Love finding stuff. And I love going to places you were talking about earlier where people say, "Oh, it's hunted out. You don't want to go there. It's all hunted out." And well, sign me up for that, because I found that there is no place that's totally hunted out. I mean, there's stuff to be found. It just may be you work a site a different way, or maybe a different metal detector with a different frequency or what have you. You can uncover stuff on a site that, had always produced and produced good stuff. And there's more stuff to be found most of the time. You just gotta get in there in hardcore style and get into the bushes and everything else to find it. But that's what kind of kept me going. I just enjoyed doing it. I'd hunt every single day if I could. There was a time when I did that, 4 or 5 days a week if I could, and found, oh gosh, so much stuff. And Craig has too. I mean, we both have a kind of a heck of a collection. It doesn't really matter if it's we all like to find coins and stuff, but I've over the years, I think the items that we find, everyday items, even like rouge containers or old cast iron stuff or tools or whatever else, it all has a story. Yeah. And I like it when I can go to places where people say, "Oh, there's never been a house there. It's just an empty field. Always has been." And I go in there and find hundreds of relics from where a home used to be from way back when. And you're kind of writing a story. You're remembering it, and that's kind of what I love doing. So,
and the relics don't lie. I mean, people will say there never was a house there. Well, they may not remember that house. And my best sites, I was thinking the other day, because I'm trying to find some new places to hunt, trying to do a little bit of scouting, and it's kind of turned out to where I've had 3 or 4 hunts here in a row where have just been a bust. But you're scouting, and that's what's going to happen whenever that is the case. But I also know that 3 or 4 of my best sites are sites that I just got out in a field because it was a high spot. It had a spring near it. It had water near it. It just looked like a good house site. And you stumble up on a 1700s house, late 1700s in our case here, is about the earliest settlers that came in. But you're not going to find any modern trash. I mean, everything that you find there virtually is either a flat button or an iron implement or something, that's interesting. But there's no sign of anything being there. So you're able to really fill in the blanks in history, fill in the blanks on the maps that don't show those houses, aren't you?
Right, exactly. I'm on a site like that right now where, I got met a guy at the VFW post, and we were sitting there talking, and he had a general interest in, he'd found an axe head. It all started with an axe head he found in the middle of his pasture, and he said, "Man, it looks really old. I'll bring it in and let you look at it." And I looked at it. It's probably about for late 1800s or whatever. And he said, "Well, you can come over and metal detect anytime you want to." Well, I got over there, and lo and behold, there's that tree there, like 29 foot around. It's a legacy oak, or that's what I call it anyways. It's been there. I think he had an arborist say it's could be 500 or 600 years old, which is incredibly old for any tree that I found around here, anywhere in the state of Florida, maybe short of St. Augustine or something like that, for it just to survive. And started finding stuff, and everything I found so far, I mean, I found a couple pull tabs, the old school pull tabs, and I think one square tab, and really that's about everything else I'm finding is from the 1920s or prior to that. Yeah. And it's exciting, only because I'm, prior to that, I've had everybody has a time where they don't find anything. I mean, you don't go out every single time and find a coin or something, and, you get, most of the time you get stumped and you don't find anything at all worth anything really. I went through 3 months of shotgun shells and bullets, brother, and I was ready to pull my hair out. And Craig says, you need to go to a different spot, but I didn't want it to defeat me. I'm very competitive with myself, and when I know history's there, and you got to find it, and you're dealing with a huge area, it can wear on you. So I went over to this, John's house there, and he's the one who owns this property where the oak tree is, and I decided to start shooting videos. I used to do instructional videos strictly, like how bury stuff, and this is the detector, this is the settings you use, and this is what you can hit it at, and get a good signal and stuff. And I told Craig, I said, I think I'm just going to say, let's detect together. And I kind of leave the camcorder on, and I'm metal detecting. People are seeing it just like I'm seeing it. Yeah. I don't know what I'm going to dig. I don't know where stuff is. And, I unlayer the site, and I just decided to start doing videos like that because it gives them an idea of what the detector's doing.
And that's good.
Now I'm using it.
Yeah, that's good for a newcomer, though, because they see how you approach a site and how you work a site and everything. But in Craig's case, now, Craig, you've been hunting your yard for how many years?
This particular one it's 2.5 years. And I lived in Alexandria, Virginia, which is like about 80 miles away. And up in that was right across from D.C. on the basically on the Potomac River. And that was the first town that got taken by the Union Army during the Civil War. And I didn't even I knew there was been some Civil War, activity there, but I didn't know the history at all. And I was metal detecting my yard early on, and my dad was kind of, saying he didn't want me to really hunt, saying, I don't want you making holes everywhere. And I said, Dad, I've been doing this for a while. I can, do one that you can hardly tell where it is. So I got a signal and I dug it, and it was a Civil War bullet. And I started screaming. I was like, "Oh my God, look, a Civil War bullet!" And Dad was like, "Oh my gosh, you kidding me?" And so then he said, "Yeah, go ahead and keep digging." So, over 30 years, I ended up digging. I think it was 64 bullets, and I got 16 eagle buttons. I got 250 coins out of that yard. I think 33 were silver. And
it's only a quarter acre, Craig. Tell them that. It's only a quarter acre.
Not even that. It's about a 16th of an acre.
It's small.
Yeah. And after we run this commercial break, Craig has a new system that he's been using. Me and Craig are kind of doing the same thing, but we'll talk about that when we come back. If you want to keep up with what's going on in the metal detecting world, then you need to be a subscriber to American Digger magazine. Butch and Anita Holcomb are the publishers of the magazine and have won awards for 3 straight years for being the best digger magazine on the market. American Digger magazine is available in both print and digital formats, so no matter where you live in the world, you can enjoy the latest happenings in the hobby. You can get in touch with American Digger magazine by going to americandigger.com or give them a call at 770-362-8671. And be sure and tell them that you heard it on RELICS RADIO. And as all of you know, I am the producer of American Digger's Relic Roundup every Monday night with Butch Holcomb and Jeff Lippert. I'm also a co-host on that show, and we're on every Monday night at 9 o'clock Eastern. We got a really good guest that's coming up this next Monday night that you will probably know, Dean Thomas. He is the one that wrote the bullet book that most of us use, and he's going to be talking about the rare Tennessee 44 caliber 3-ringer, so you don't want to miss that show. But Craig, me and you are kind of doing the same thing. We're taking some of these old hammered places where we've hunted them for a number of years, and we're taking the Equinox with that little small coil and doing pretty good, aren't we?
Yeah, it's this is the smallest coil I've ever had. I'm a big coil guy. It's got to be at least 11 inches. But I've been seeing what you've been doing, and also Greg with Finding America, I think it is.
Yeah.
And I decided, I'm going to get the bigger coil too, I think, but I decided to go ahead and get the 6-inch because I got this yard I have in Middletown, Virginia is it's so full of square nails, it's unbelievable, and a lot of railroad trash and stuff, and cinders, and it's just one of the most difficult places. And it's still yielding stuff. I mean, I went out in the side yard last week, several wheat pennies, used the orb, used this new horde settings to. I ended up getting a spigot that went to a barrel tap down over a foot deep. And this is a yard right next to where I dug it. I dug a breastplate when I first bought the house.
Yeah,
right in the front yard, and it's a perfect testing ground. So I go out every day and tweak the test, and I'm always looking at all the sites to see what people are saying about, and I saw this, settings that these guys were using to get deep silver coins, and you basically 5 kilohertz is the deepest setting you can use. It's even deeper than the multis, and then you don't use much bias. You don't use much bias. You let it go down in the iron range, and what I'm finding is it tweaks on iron pretty good. It'll give you a high tweak a lot of times in numbers. But my thing is that, I don't care if I dig, how much trash, as long as I dig something good. I don't even worry about the trash. I never have. People used to always say, "Oh my God, you dig so much trash," and I said, "Yeah, but I get little tiny things that you guys don't even find." Like I remember I've dug like 15 3-cent pieces over the years. And how many people even dig one?
That's right. Yeah, and that's a hard target to find. But if and a lot of times people, especially newcomers, they don't realize how much that iron will mask a target. And you and I have kind of been watching one another back and forth over the past month or so, what each other is doing. And just to be honest with you, I was ready to throw my Equinox away. I was done with it. And then changed a few things, put my 6-inch coil on. And the only reason that I really did was I had a spot that was really, really just infested with iron everywhere. But I found a breastplate there with my CTX 4 or 5 years ago, and I found a lot of bullets and flat buttons and stuff like that. And I knew that there was stuff still there. And I thought, I'm going to put that 6-inch coil on. I'm going to turn the iron bias down. I'm going to turn the recovery speed, just kind of in the middle. And I'm going to go just as slow as I can go. And the first thing I dug was a shield nickel. And it just opened up, and all of a sudden I had new faith in my Equinox. I like it as a cleanup machine. I don't know about you, but I love it as a cleanup machine.
To me, the Bliss tool is my cleanup machine, but this yard is so busy that with the nails that the Bliss has so much power, it has trouble, penetrating in some areas. The Equinox unmasks like I've never seen. This is my 47th machine that I've owned.
47
years. Yeah,
I'm not that bad. Goodness gracious!
Craig has a problem. He has an addiction problem.
Yeah.
My name is Craig Talley, and I'm a metal detector-holic.
It started right after this addiction started right after I first started. I got this Royal Sabre, and I could barely get a dime at like 4 inches, with it, and it had this 7-inch coil on it. And this friend of mine had a Technetics 7800, I think it was. It had a very long box. It had 14 AA batteries, and this thing had tone ID, and you could just pick the silver dime from a regular clad dime. You just could hear it. And I ended up buying that machine from him. It was like a $700 machine back then in 1987, I think. And I went on a tear. I think I got 100 silver coins that year. I could go around and cherry pick, and then I got a 10.5-inch coil for it. And then I went back to the same areas and dug another 50-something silver coins. But, it's like I got into selling machines. My friend he had a business out of his house, and I had a tennis shop. So I just said, well, hell, we can start coming over here and we can sell machines out of the shop. So I started doing that, and I started selling and trading and, buying used machines. And, I, some of the machines I didn't use but a week, and I didn't like them, and I'd just sell them. And then, other machines I kept for a while. But I got toward probably the last 15 years, I've always had, most of the time I had, the machine I used, most of the time I had two of them in case one of them went out. So, like I had two Nautiluses, I had two MineLab Explorers, stuff like that. But right now I got 3 Bliss tools. I got a XP Deus. I've had that for 7 years. And what else? I got a Tesoro Stingray underwater machine, and I got the Equinox. But the Equinox is not the deepest machine I've ever had, but it unmasks like it's unbelievable. I dig stuff out of holes that have like 5 and 6, 7 square nails in the hole, and it still picks it out.
Yep. And that was the thing that really sold me on the machine whenever I first got mine. I had really good luck at first, and then I don't know, kind of got off track with it a little bit. I was using the GPX quite a bit, and that might have played into it or something other. But then whenever I went back to the 6-inch coil and fiddled with the settings and everything, I fell in love with it again, especially in those high concentrations of iron and trash and all of that. But, Derek, you're using the new Simplex now, aren't you, from Note to Macro?
Yes, sir. Yeah, and I'm growing to really love that machine. When I got it about, I'm going to say a month and a half ago. Just happened to be able to get one, and I used it. I've had Quest Pro and Quest 40s and White's machines and everything else, and they're all good machines. They'll find you something. It ain't no big deal. But this Simplex is a different animal. This machine has a lot of nuance to it, and it took me a little bit to get my mind wrapped around what it was doing. But the one thing I found with it, that it has really for the price, it has an incredible ability to unmask in a lot of iron and stuff like that. Unmask a good non-ferrous target, your silver, gold, brass, copper. And that's why I started doing the videos the way I was doing, because I get a signal and scan it. I said, man, I'm hearing something in there. The VDI numbers, jumping or maybe higher or lower or whatever. But it's always, even the VDI system on that machine is, it doesn't jump as much as like I had an AT Pro, and that was a good machine. That was one of the best-selling machines in the country or in the world, really. And what I noticed with the Simplex is it doesn't jump so much, maybe 4 or 5 numbers one way or the other on a non-ferrous target, brass or what have you. And I'm like digging and like, well, that's a square nail, or that's a regular nail, or whatever. And I still get a signal in the hole, and before you know it, I'm 9-10 inches down in the ground, and out pops something that's non-ferrous or whatever, and there's no more signals in the hole. And it just kind of floored me the first day with that machine. And just the recovery delay, you can bang it against stuff. I'm pretty rough on detectors. Well, we are in the U.S., especially rough on metal detectors, and I've been told that by several people from outside the country. You guys, beat up your machines. I just know we just use them. It's got to be able to handle some abuse. It has to be able to handle getting dirty and wet and what have you. And this machine, even the detector shaft on the thing, it doesn't have a wobble in it, Loy. You know what I'm talking about. You get a lot of the machines that have that coil wobble. When you swing it, you can feel it give.
Right.
And they've designed this. It's kind of like a square-shaped shaft, but it's narrow. I can't remember what they call it, Craig. What is it? Where the corners are rounded.
It's kind of like
something like a hex. I think that really helps the machine as far as that goes. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But
like that too.
Yeah. Well, when I took the machine out the first time, guys, I mean, I still do it. I turned the machine on. The only thing I adjusted the first video or two was the volume and the sensitivity. I'm put it around 75% on the sensitivity, and I went to hunting. I didn't ground balance. I didn't do, I just let it do the automatic ground balance thing. And I just hunted with it like somebody would that was brand new to the hobby. And to see if the machine, how the machine would react. Some of them, some machines won't work like that. Some will. But this machine really shined. And the more I work with it, Lloyd, it's worth it. For I think I paid $254 for the machine because I didn't get the wireless headphones or nothing like that.
Right.
I just prefer wired.
But
yeah, this thing,
even that lower priced unit, and we got to go to a commercial break here in just a second. I want to talk more about it on the other side of it. But even with that lower priced machine, you're still getting the same machine. You're just not getting the wireless headphones with it. But we'll be right back. We are very excited to announce that Calico Metal Detectors is now the major sponsor of RELICS Radio. Calico Metal Detectors has provided customers with the best metal detectors and accessories for over 60 years, and they offer the largest selection and best deals on metal detectors guaranteed. Calico Metal Detectors features only the very best of treasure hunting equipment that'll help you find coins, rings, jewelry, and relics both on land and underwater. From gold pans to metal detectors, they carry the hottest selling products on the market. And Calico is just a phone call away, before, during, or after the purchase. You can call them at 855-246-2586 or visit the website at www.calicodetectors.com. And by the way, guys, RELICS Radio is an affiliate with Calico Metal Detectors. So if you're in the market for a metal detector or any accessory, shoot me an email at diggingwith7, all one word, at gmail.com, and I will get you fixed up. Go on back, Derek, and continue to talk about that Simplex Plus. It's unbelievable that machine, and I got to use one, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and then I used one this past Saturday. And it really surprises me that there is so much in that machine at that price range. It's even waterproof.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't taken it to the beach yet. I've been trying to get there, but my world is upside down half the time. I'm running here and there and everywhere. So I haven't had a chance to do it yet, but I don't see there being a problem with working this thing on the beach. I've watched enough of the videos and stuff, and it can handle the salt. The mineralization of salt, just like iron mineralization, it's, you're hitting double whammy on wet sand. But I'm looking forward to doing that. It does, I can't really, Lloyd, to be honest with you, I really want to say I can't find a lot wrong with the machine at all. I mean, it is what it is. It has, I found that the park mode, it doesn't get as deep as the field mode, but what I've been doing is, I'd hunt in park, and then when I get a signal, and a lot of the ones I've been getting lately, I'm not even showing a VDI number, but it's giving me a solid, repeatable signal in both directions, or enough for me to investigate, and I'll switch that thing over to field, and then I'll get a VDI number on it. I use VDI numbers strictly for investigation of a target. I'm primarily a sound hunter also, and I've gone through and a lot of those targets you'll see in the video where, you barely hear it. It's, it's deep, but when you can barely hear it, it's almost a whisper tone. Now, if I had earphones on, I'd really probably be able to hear a lot more. A lot of the popping and the other signals you will hear when I'm swinging, I would hear probably a lot more with the headphones on it. But because I'm doing the video, it's just a pain to unplug, replug. I want people to hear what the machine was doing.
Right.
And but it's nailing stuff really, actually really deep. I think one of the I want to say is some of these shotgun shells, I'm digging at like 13 inches down, 14 inches down. It's incredible that it's able to hit those. But you're only dealing with, like on the sensitivity is the major adjustment that I've made, and also it has a screen on there where you can turn down the iron volume. and only let the other stuff, the good stuff, come through, the non-ferrous items, at a regular volume level. And I've moved that down to like 1 bar on the iron because I could still see and hear it, but I want to hear those higher pitched signals because that means it's going to be copper or silver or whatever it might be. It enables me to help me understand what I'm unmasking. This is really good for. This would be a great machine for a newcomer. Really, Lloyd, they can put it in their hand and they can go out there and at least have the ability to find some coins at 5, 6, 7 inches down, where it wasn't that long ago where you turn a machine on and if you messed with any buttons at all, you could get yourself all out of whack, not knowing what you're doing yet. And when you're moving that iron volume down on the machine, you're actually getting more depth. At least that's what it says in the manual. And I've learned to read the manuals. I don't like doing it. Craig doesn't either, but there's little hints in there of what the capabilities of the machine, could improve or help you more understand what you're hearing. Your hearing's a lot better than your sight is.
Right.
There's a lot more information in the signal. And with the nuance in this machine, it impressed me, even with the Equinox also, that there is so much information in the signal. And Craig and I were talking about this about 6 months ago. Man, I wish there was a company out there that would come out with a machine that primarily dealt with or actually worked on the sound of a machine instead of just throwing some kind of regular old speaker in there or a regular old sound chip to really expand on that a little bit. And I think that, both MindLab and Nocta Macro are doing that. Nocta Macro really impressed me. I really did not expect to like this machine as much as I do. I mean, I've had Quest Pro, I've had AT Pro F75s, I've had, MXTs and from Whites and everything, and they're good machines. They find you stuff. But this one, it has something about it, and it keeps you interested. There is a learning curve on the sounds. You'll get grindy sounds and squawky sounds, and it's the way the signal coming through. It's the same tone, Lloyd, but it's the way that the tone sounds.
That's the nuances that we're talking about when we talk about the nuance of a tone, because it may be the same number, and it may even be the same frequency of a sound, but it's what's included with that sound. You're getting these little grunts and squeaks and different modulation of that sound. And the more you use a machine, the more that you're going to know and be able to identify whenever you hear that. If you're digging brass buttons and you hear the sound that's given, even if you get in a bunch of square nails, you're going to be able to hear that little nuance in there, and generally you're going to identify there's a button in there somewhere.
Right. And every machine deals with aluminum differently a little bit, but they all have a problem with it. I mean, whether it's can slaw, a shredded up beer can, or a can that's been ripped in half and smashed, and aluminum comes through, so it's such a high conductor.
Yep.
And it's very hard. And I always stress to people that they have you have the ability to notch out VDI numbers that you don't want to hear, but you got to be real careful with that because so many targets run a gamut. Like buttons, they're in the 50s or 40s or 20s. Well, aluminum can do that too. I mean, I think aluminum comes out as a 30, a square tab. You don't want to miss a good target. If I have to dig 5 or 6 pull tabs to get a gold ring, by golly, let me dig pull tabs all day because I'm going to be a rich man. You know what I mean? So, you got to, as a relic hunter, I want anything, even iron. I have found some of the coolest stuff and I think just on this site alone, I have found stuff that I would almost say was Spanish. We're down. I should have said it before. I'm down here in Central Florida,
right?
And I've been hunting down here for quite a while. And so, the Spanish were here for a couple hundred years before we kind of took over the whole place. And there's a lot of history here, but dealing with this sand. and this limestone rock and stuff that I have in this county, in Sumter County, stuff gets deep. I've dug irons, the old-fashioned irons you iron clothes with and stuff with way back, and back in the day.
Right.
I've dug those shoulder deep before. I mean, it does sink, the rains. If it's a swampy area, the bullets, I found the Seminole Indian bullets, round balls, 50 caliber were the U.S. side, and usually 28 to 36 caliber were Seminole Indian bullets. And I find them with such a harsh white patina on them, because what used to be a swampy area is now dry, and it's a farm field. Very hard to sight read down here, and you don't have a lot of stone walls or base cellar holes or stuff that's still noticeable, because it either gets overgrown or it rots away to nothing.
Right.
And a lot of these old cracker houses and stuff like that were either they burned down, or the termites ate them up and they fell over and they pushed them out of the way. So you're dealing with an extreme amount of trash as far as nails. It's just what have you. I dig everything. It seems like my first find with a metal detector was a Model A or Model T headlight, inside of a headlight. You just never know what you're going to dig up. But you got to dig trash to get treasure. That's you got to stick with it. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have fantastic days. But you never know. It's a big adventure. You never know what you're going to dig up.
And your best discriminator is your shovel. Dig it out and then see what it is. If it's trash, throw it in the trash pile. But you're going to be surprised at things. And if I could give any tip to a new hunter, is listen to your machine and dig everything that repeats, but listen to that tone before you dig it, and then start quizzing yourself. Try and figure out what you think it is. And as you begin to do that, you begin to identify certain sounds with certain, whether it's brass or whether it's aluminum or whether it's iron or whether it's silver. They're all given a little bit of from iron to silver, it's quite a bit of difference. But whenever you're looking in the middle ground there, the nuances will tell you things. And, but not unless you know your machine and you dig it all. But Craig, you're Craig is like me, I think. I learned to hunt by sound because the first metal detectors that I had, they didn't have any VDI. What about you, Craig?
Right.
Yeah, sort of. But when I started, I mostly was coin hunting about the first 3 or 4 years. And I found an 1854 dime, and it changed everything. I decided I didn't want to coin hunt anymore. I wanted a relic hunt so I could find more of those kind of coins. So I was hunting with a Toltec 100, and a friend of mine also had one. We were hunting Union camps, and he was killing me on eagle buttons. Any kind of button, he was taking like 3 times more than I was. And I was keeping up with him on bullets, but not on buttons. And I was like, man, we're using the same machine. So one day I got a signal. I looked at the meter, and it didn't read anything. So I thought, man, that sounds good. It's soft, but it's not reading on the meter. I'm going to see what it is. So I dug the deepest eagle button I ever dug. So I thought, oh, now I know what he's doing. He's not even looking at the meter. So I stopped. I had metered machines over the years, and I just didn't even look at them. Like the Explorer, I never looked at the meter. I just listened to the tone and dug. And people used to, I'd walk behind people and dig stuff all the time. And people would, I think people were too addicted to those meters. They just, I'm trying to teach people how to use the Deus. And you have to listen. It has these tweaks and these high pitched things that don't really read on the meter. And I said,
yep.
You got to learn. You got to listen. But some people don't. They want pure numbers, and that's it. And most of them are coin hunters. Relic hunters are a little different. We dig everything.
Especially if it repeats. Especially if you get a repeatable signal. And the meter will lie to you. I have dug cut Spanish silver that would ring up I guess maybe the highest one I had ring up was 80 or 81. And the lowest one that I had ring up was a 34. I don't know why it was a 34. It was in the hole with a whole bunch of square nails and a bunch of junk, and maybe it was just being masked. And I don't know that and that's on an AT Pro. I don't know that I tried it after I got it out of the hole, but I did think I'm digging a cuff button whenever I dug it, and it turned out to be cut silver, which should have rung up high. So the numbers will lie, but the sound did not lie. I mean, I could hear that high tone in there. Hey, guys, I've opened up the phone lines. We're past syndication now. It's 270-495-0315. I put it in the chat. Somebody else can put it in if you want to, but call in. We've got Derek Asklar and Craig Talley on the line from Hardcore Metal Detecting. You may want to ask them a question. But, Craig, you've used the Nautilus, and that is completely a sound machine, and it's a different sound machine than anything that anybody will ever use, isn't it?
Yeah, it was made by Jerry Tyndall down in North Carolina, and I talked to him several times, and he actually had dreams. I told him how to build this machine. But it was a dual tone, and you had discriminate in the left ear, and you had all metal in the right ear. And a lot of times on a deep button or a deep bullet, you wouldn't get any all metal. You just get the left ear. And that machine went quite a bit deeper, but it was a really heavy machine. It was built like a military construction on it with this huge box on it. And you had to tune. I had the Nautilus 2B, and you had to tune these two things to kind of get a null point in order to to get balanced right to go in the ground. But it wasn't if you got into mineralized ground, that thing struggled like crazy, But in good ground, like sandy soil or just in the regular woods, man, that thing was killer. And it would pick stuff out of the iron too. And I got to, I had two of them, and I'd go to these camps, and there'd be back then there was a lot of whites guys that were using, I think, the black box 6000 SLs were pretty popular, and they could not. I was in this one camp, and there was a whole bunch of guys there one day, and I was digging buck balls left and right, and it was just iron all over the place. It was a 18th Georgia camp, and they were amazed, and they said, "How are you getting those things? We can't even hear them." So with the Nautilus, it didn't have a speaker on the machine. You had headphones. If you didn't have headphones, you couldn't use it. So I let them hear it, and I went over one, and they said, "Oh, I can hear that." And I said, it's such a small target and it deep, you probably wouldn't even get a meter reading much on a buck ball anyway, but I can hear it, and so, they couldn't believe it. I was just picking one after another, and then every once in a while I'd get like a round ball, and because that was a buck ball camp, and they were kind of poor soldiers early in the war, and but that place was, that was a place where I finally got permission to go there, and all these people said that the guy that gave me permission said that the reason he gave me permission was I wouldn't find anything. It was all cleaned out. And the first day I go in there, I got, I think it was 15 round balls and 33 buck balls. And, over about, I guess, a 3-year period, I ended up getting 4 Confederate buttons out of that, three Georgias and one South Carolina. I got, out of one pit, I got 15 company letters that were handmade. I got a 3-cent piece, a fatty Indian head. I got a 1723 mint-shaped 2 real pistarine. All kind, seat at Liberty coin. I think I got a half dime. I got a 1876 Syndicated, Liberty Dime. There was a lot of arrowheads in that area too. Mostly round balls and buck balls, but I did dig Gardners, which was kind of unusual because it was an early war camp. But that place was like training ground. It was, there was so much iron and so much debris in the ground and stuff that it was tough for a lot of meter machines to work in that kind of ground. But
yep. I've got a site like that. It is a picket post that was there in 1862, and it is absolutely covered up with buck balls and small pistol balls and everything. And found a few Gardners in there, found a few Smiths, I believe, found a few 44 Colts. I believe that it was probably a cavalry camp from the things, that I would find there. But that GPX, a VLF has trouble with the buck balls and the small round balls like that because it's such a small target and because it's such a really a low conductor, really. And but the GPX, they just sing on it, and I've heard that Nautilus is the same way. And any relic hunter that had a Nautilus, they'd buy a couple of them because they loved them so much and were afraid, that they would go out of production, which they did, I guess, didn't they?
Well, yeah, Jerry died actually, and he'd actually come up with a newer one called the 2BA, but most of the people like me didn't like the sound. It was totally different, and I'd already. What happened with me is I walked over a artillery flat button from the War of 1812, and I didn't hear with the Nautilus, and my friend picked it up with the Explorer XS right behind me, and he had one and it broke, and he gave it to me, and I ended up getting it fixed, and I started testing it with the Nautilus, and within I think it was 4 months, I'd never used the Nautilus again. I just totally switched to the Explorer.
It doesn't take but one time somebody walked behind you and find something really good, and you covered that area to make you rethink what machine that you're using. I tell you.
Well, he's a really good friend of mine, and he actually called me back to check the signal. He hadn't even dug it, and I had to turn the threshold all the way up, but you couldn't hunt like that. But I could hear it, I could get this scratchy, repeatable signal with the threshold all the way up. But it wasn't. You couldn't hunt like that. It's just too noisy. It was too falsy. But and then he dug it up, and it was probably about 9 inches deep. And I heard the signal he was getting, and I was like, God, that's a pretty good signal, But a lot of people, that machine had all the tones, They had 32 tones or something, and it had all kinds of frequencies, and it sounded like a synthesizer when you went over stuff. And it was kind of like, it kind of made a long signal, like, When I went over, if I went over a silver coin or a button, I could tell you it was a button or a silver coin every time.
Yeah. The E-Track was that way with silver coins. It had a fluty sound whenever you went over a silver coin.
Yeah.
And
I couldn't wrap my mind around that thing.
And I did a video whenever Tennessee Jeff first got his Equinox. Well, we got them about the same time. I think maybe he got his a week before I did. But anyway, I was hunting with an AT Pro, and he was hunting with an Equinox, and there was a friend of ours from California that was in, and he had an XP Deus. And I said, guys, I told Jeff, I said, if you get a signal in a minute, I said, call us over and let us all listen to it and everything. So he got a good signal that was in the brass range, and he said, I've got a good brass signal here. Well, I went over there with AT Pro, and it sounded like iron, and I said, I don't think I would dig that. And so then the guy come over with an XP Deus, And he said, no, that's iron. He said, I wouldn't dig that. And so Jeff dug down. It wasn't anything great, you know, it was just a piece of brass, but he heard it and we didn't hear it. And so I put that in the video and we were talking about it. You know, we had our settings the way we hunt sites, and we couldn't hear it, and the Equinox picked it out. And man, I got all kind of hate comments, you know. Oh, if I'd have been there, you know, I would have. And the guy with the XP Deus, he could tune it to where he could hear it. But how are you going to tune it if you don't already have a signal? That's my point, you know, to make about the thing.
Yeah,
that's always been a thing of me too. You can't. You know, if you use regular hunting settings, you can't just tune every single time you find something. You know, it doesn't work like that. So if you're having to you know, go all the way down on sensitivity or all the way up on sensitivity and all the way down on discrimination in order to get something, well, you know, that kind of throws it out of the park right there. You know, you're not in the same wave when you're finding it no problem with just your normal hunting settings. You know, it's more difficult to do that for a machine. And it kind of gives you an idea too, Lloyd, because, you know, a lot of stuff factors in the EMI, the soil moisture. There's so many factors that can affect a metal detector anyways. And finding a detector that the newer ones seem to handle that a lot better than the older ones did. I think in the last, Craig, 5 to 7 years, the metal detectors have a better chance with a lot of EMI around. I mean, they still have trouble, but I mean, they're making them so they're adjustable. You can go offsets and stuff like that, so you can get into an area to deal with that kind of situation better than you could, I don't know, back in the mid 2000s, early 2000s there. You know, you didn't have cell phones and microwaves and all this, and now we deal with Wi-Fi and all that kind of stuff. So it's nice to see a lot of these detectors are handling it a lot better now, because that can aggravate a newcomer big time. I had a couple like that where they call me, I can't get this thing. It's all it's doing is chattering and this and that. And I said, well, you're in between houses and you're in the city. You know, that's going to mess with your metal detector. You got to adjust this or adjust that. But at least they have the ability to do that now, where they didn't have it as good of an ability to change frequencies up and stuff.
Yeah,
so that makes it kind of nice.
The CTX had that, where you could, you could run for EMI to cut it out, and it was pretty good. But I don't think it was near as good as the. I've had a brain freeze, but the I know. Yeah, with the new Mind Lab with the Equinox, I mean, you can hunt right, especially with a 6-inch coil. You can hunt right up against stuff, can't you, Craig?
Yeah, I was showing a video the other day where I was rubbing it against the fence in my yard, the chain link fence, and still getting a wheat penny, down in the ground. And, but there's power lines right along there. And when they came out with those new settings, the first time I noticed, both times they've come up with new settings, with the new software, I've noticed a boost in the performance of the machine. And one of the things I've told everybody is that noise canceling is just out of this world compared to any other machine I've ever had. Just complete. In the 6-inch coil, it's just like it's not even there. It's just so quiet. I heard people saying it was a noisy coil, but I just don't find that. I don't find it.
No, it's
we find that more often than not with these. You got to sometimes consider the source on some of these comments. I know that. I had a couple people talk about the simplex. I'd say something and somebody comment back that, oh, it's great. And then somebody will say, well, it's not good on the salt water, or, even the Equinox, they've done it to that too. Craig will make a video and somebody will come out and come out with something. They don't even own the machine. So, I don't worry about a lot of what some people say. If they don't have the machine and they're not using it, I'm going to listen to somebody like Craig that uses it, or you, Loy, or whatever. If you tell me something it's not doing, I'm gonna perk my ears up a little bit, and if I own the machine myself, I'd go out there and try it and see if I can make it do it. But we've dealt with that over the years. I know that, and I can't remember her, Deetra,
Delic,
the lady from Nokta.
Yeah, Delic.
Yeah, she was worried about that. And Craig and I were saying to ourselves, just off air, I wish she'd not worry so much. And they have a solid metal detector that works really good.
I was telling Derek, get used to it, because that's the way we got. That's the one thing I like about not having to sell metal detectors anymore.
Well, when you get in,
you're feeling.
When you get into business, it's a whole nother ball game right there, because
it's definitely a buyer's market.
Yeah, but if you're having success, you're going to have all of these people that are hating that success, and I think that Delic is having to deal with that right now, because that is a very, very successful machine right now. And I said
she just needs to breathe. Just breathe a little bit is all she has to do. Don't let it get to her. She has a solid machine, and it'll do, everything they say it'll do.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't had any problems out of it. It's, I saw her, she was upset about it, which I get. I've been there, and Craig's been my voice of reason, because if I tell you a machine will do something, that's why we started doing our test with the Bliss tool the way we were. I wanted it so that I can tell people, you put it on these hunting settings and you bury that thing yourself and you run the coil over it, you're going to get it just like I will, because anybody can, you can get somebody that's fantastic with a machine and bury, 20 feet deep down in the ground and he can get it, but it doesn't mean somebody that's brand new to the hobby or brand new to the machine can do it. That's why we started doing our tests like that. I wanted something to show them, hey, this is what anybody can do with this machine or whatever I'm using at the time. And that stopped a lot of it. We just heard her, she was really upset about, which I get, it's totally understandable when you have a good product and you're trying to, promote it and stuff. I think that's why Craig and I got out of the business and the selling and stuff. That's a whole different ball game, and there's a whole lot of sharks in that pool with you, and you're just a little tadpole. So you gotta pick your battles sometimes, and it just you got to have a business mindset, Lloyd. And
it's very competitive. There's so many dealers trying to sell, and it's nobody's really making a lot of money anyway. From what I'm it's never been it's a niche hobby, but there's not a lot of people, in the hobby like there is other hobbies, but we use expensive products,
we're also tough on stuff too. We're always, we buy pinpointers and headphones and shovels, and sometimes you can make this stuff yourself. I tell guys, you can't afford to go out and buy a big old, $80 shovel. You can use a regular shovel. They both will dig. You might have to make some modifications or whatever. And this hobby will take you to so many places and so many other hobbies that you never really considered, because I've been on, out metal detecting, and it's turned into a bottle hunt. You dig one bottle, then another one, and pretty soon you're digging a trench trying to get all these bottles out. And, it just kind of, maybe you live out west and you find you're out there metal detecting for coins or something. You find a gold nugget or something. Well, you just became a prospector, because you're going to dig up the whole area trying to find gold. It's so much fun. And photography and videoing and, well, heck, the radio shows, Lloyd. I mean, Craig and I started doing this about 4 years ago, and, we're not, we don't even pretend to be radio host or whatever, really. We just kind of go with the flow and let the show take a path that it wants to. And, most of the time we don't even know what's going on, at first, and what we're going to talk about. And it's made it a lot of fun. I think it's fun for the listeners too.
It's a lot less drama. It's a lot less drama. Yeah.
And the people that listen to the show, we got I think we're almost up to 30,000 followers now on the show, but the regular guys, I mean, I see them on here tonight, Bill Marsh and Barb and Michael Boyles, and all these people are just really into metal detecting. And these are, I've met them all. Craig and I've met a lot of them on the hunts, Mark Hoover and everything. The hunts are fun to go to, and don't expect to go to the hunts and find a bunch of stuff. I mean, because well, you're probably not going to find a ton of stuff, but the people that you meet and rub elbows with, so to speak, you find so many people from so many different walks of life that are into this hobby, and you just never know. I know guys at metal detector that are doctors, lawyers, pilots, construction workers. I mean, just across the whole field. And then you deal with people from outside of the country. I was lucky enough to be able to go to Bulgaria for a couple of weeks and hunt a Roman site, and found the oldest coin I ever found was a 2,600-year-old coin. It's a Greek coin, the goddess of goodness coin. And I found a Constantine coin, and I never would have had a chance to do that if it wasn't for this hobby, and being in it. But wanting to travel and everything, and just the people I met over there, or even in the UK and stuff. Darren Groves is a good friend of Craig and mine for a lot of years, and he's out of it now because of medical reasons and stuff. But just the friendships that you build, and a lot of people said years ago, you can't have a friend over the internet. That doesn't exist. And Craig and I will argue with on that, because heck, we've met a lot of good people. Craig and I met on the internet through metal detecting, and he's my best friend. We went up there and finally met and hunted together, and found out we had a lot in common in the way that we hunt. And even joking around, I hunted Craig's yard, Loy, and Craig in Alexandria.
A 3-ringer. He stole a 3-ringer right out of my front yard. I couldn't believe it.
He's some friend.
Bring on your hunt. Yeah, bring on your hunted out spots. I'll hunt them. Because I like doing that. I mean, it's just to show people that. Not Craig, but I mean, just generally show people that a place is never hunted out. There's stuff there. You may not be able to get to it just yet, but as technology gets better and these machines unmask better, but you got to dig the junk before you get the treasure, and you've got to unmask this stuff in these lots. I mean, if you're dealing with a big old piece of cast iron like I've been dealing with, a foot wide and a 9-inch long piece of cast iron laying in the ground 4 inches down it's going to mask up a bunch of stuff around it, probably within a foot, on most metal detectors. And once you get that piece out there, you go back over it the next day, and lo and behold, you have targets down there, and they may not be anything great, but you just never know. Don't ever think your site's hunted out. It just isn't.
It's not. I've got 2 or 3 spots that I've hunted for 5 years, and different day, different machine, different soil conditions, different atmosphere. I don't know what all comes into play.
Yeah.
But on any given day, you can go in but I'll tell you one thing that I have found. If you go into a site that you've hunted quite a bit, or even into a new site, and your first find is a spectacular find, you might as well go home, because you ain't going to find much else that day.
Yeah, no doubt. And also, too, people always ask, where do I hunt? Where do I go? Hunt your own yard. Don't let people tell you that, there's never been anything here, there, whatever. Hunt your own yard. Hunt it thoroughly. Hunt it often. I mean, I've gone to Tom Bunch and Bill Pendergrass. They live over outside of Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and I went up there and spent a week and hunted with them. And I went and Tom told me, he said, man, everybody's hunted my. I have 8 or 9 friends at Metal Tech. We've all hunted the yard and everything else. I go out there and find a thimble 3 inches down in the ground. It wasn't, hunt your yards, and permissions will come to you. You meet people every day, depending where you're at, whether you're going, I don't care if it's a church, going to church, or going, like I'm a member at the VFW, the Veteran Foreign Wars Post. And, over time, people say, well, you do that metal detecting thing, don't you? Because I always have my hat on or my shirt on. It says, metal detector bliss tool or whatever. And, they said, well, man, I lost this, or I can't find my survey stakes on my property, or if you can help them out, because you know what, if you do a good job and find those survey stakes, so to speak, you're saving them a bunch of money calling a surveyor out. And they said, you know what, there used to be something down over here in this pasture. You can hunt all you want to. And pretty soon, the other neighbor's going to come around and say, well, heck, he can hunt my property. I don't mind as long as he don't tear it up. You know, and I've always said, you know, if you leave their property cleaner than what you found it and better, then you have a friend for life. They're going to want, and most of the time you're going to find a hunting partner, because I have 2 or 3 that actually went out and bought metal detectors, and, you know, we go hunting every so often when I can get out there with them. And, you know, even John, this new place, you know, he's wanting to buy a metal detector. He says, I can't believe how much stuff you found. And 6 times coming out to his property, Lloyd, I probably have, I don't know, 4 or 5 5-gallon buckets full of just, you know, shotgun shells and cast iron. And, you know, I put the good finds in a different place, but, you know, I found buttons from the, you know, mid 1800s and this and that. And he's seen all this stuff going, my God, there's that much stuff out there, but it looks like a flat pasture.
Yep.
And once people figure out that they have stuff in their yard and stuff, well,
they get excited about it. They get interested in it because everybody wants to know, you know. I think that it's kind of ingrained in us, especially the men, is that we want to know what's in the ground. We know that there's stuff there, and we want to know what that next signal is going to be. But you're talking about, you know, you're networking when you do that, because if you go out and you do a good deed for a landowner, like finding the property stakes or finding a ring or whatever, word's going to get out that, you know, you're going to come in there and treat the land with respect. You're going to treat the landowner with respect, and then they're going to, word of mouth is the best advertisement that you can get. It'll just continue to open doors.
Come to you.
Yep.
Yeah, they're going to come to you, and that's what's nice about it. You know, you don't have to go knock on a door. I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing that, but, you know, it's so nice when people, hey, will you come over here? I lost a ring, or I lost this or that. Can you help me find it with that machine?
Yeah.
And, you know, oh, yeah, I'll give it a shot. You know, that's all you can do is give it a try. But it's been, you know, that's what's really, another thing that's really neat about this hobby. You have not only the guys in the hobby, I call you know, men, women, and children, they're all guys, you know, just on the show. But, you know, the kids that are in this hobby now and have been, I mean, we know them from, you know, gosh, me and Craig and I, Maddie and Cody, you know, they're in it. Nugget Noggin, you know, he's been in it for many years, done been very successful in it and doing what he does. And, you know, Craig, you know, I told Craig, I said, you know, I watched probably one of the first videos I watched was one of his, and I think he was, I don't know, 12, 13 years old. I can't remember, but, you know, he was having fun with it. And the women in this hobby, my golly, you know, there's some stiff competition there. These women are methodical.
They are good.
You know, Sam Waters and Barbara, and oh goodness. And there's a lot of different people that are in the hobby and we'd all just love it. You know, that makes it nice. So.
And Derek, they're talking about the 3-hour show we did that night. You remember that on y'all's show?
Yes, sir.
Y'all had already ran for 2 hours, and Ohio Relic Hunter was saying, call in to me, and I called in and got Pauline on the line, and we ran a 3-hour show. That is a record right there, 3 hours.
Yeah. My wife. You know, she hasn't been able to metal detect in a little while now because of medical and stuff and everything. But, you know, she is one that I got her into the hobby, you know, for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. She saw me going under, and she finally gave it a shot, and I created a monster because, you know, she has permissions that I can't even get on the property.
Well, she knows a lot of...
Right, I'm married.
She knows a lot of the history there, too, and that's a plus.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's amazing. The property that the Tollbridge property is a property that I always wanted to hunt ever since I found the old the pillars for the bridge years ago.
Right.
And I said, man, I wish I could hunt this property. It's only a half a mile from my house and everything. And when I got permission here, she goes, well, I wish you would have said something to me. That used to be my great 5 or 6 great grandmother's property. And it turns out this thing goes back. She has it in in the family Bibles. They used to write it in the margins, you know, just certain things about properties and then business transactions and stuff like that. And she has it all the way back to 1820 on that property. And, you know, we know that it was owned, you know, by the same man that had married her or whatever. They got married and probably even close to, right at 1800. So, it could very well be older than that. But, you find a spot like that. She has properties that, it's, she knows everybody. She was, 13 generations down here. So, she has, distant relatives. They'll let her hunt anytime she wants to. If I try to step on the property, they probably shoot me. Because that's just the way they are. I always tell them, I don't worry about people trespassing on my hunt sites, because people down here they take trespassing pretty seriously. So don't do it.
Yeah. Hey guys, we're an hour and a half in, and so I really do appreciate both of you guys coming on here tonight. And by the way, I have put all of their links in the description on this video. The Hardcore Metal Detecting show on Spreaker, also their Facebook page there, and individual Facebook pages, and then YouTube pages. Check them out. Go check out Derek Asklar and Craig Talley, and every Saturday night at 8 o'clock Eastern, every Monday morning, Wednesday morning, and Friday morning at 7 o'clock Eastern, they have the morning coffee show, and all of them are good. But appreciate both of you being with me tonight, and just thank you for coming.
No problem, boy. Anytime.
It was really fun. Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to meeting both of you in the near future. But you guys hang on, and I'll say goodbye to you off the air as soon as I close the show, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hey, appreciate it, guys. Everybody that was in the chat here, I want to remind everybody that coming up January the 4th and 5th, we will be at Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, at the RELICS show there with American Digger Magazine. And the whole American Digger Magazine Relic Roundup crew will be there. We're going to do some live shows from that show. Did those last year there as well. I'll try to give you a heads up on RELICS Radio and also on the American Digger page. And as to about when we will do that, it will probably be about noon Eastern time on January the 4th. So check that out and come back here next Thursday night right here on RELICS Radio. See you then. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on RELICS Radio. We really do appreciate it. Be sure and join us live every Thursday night at 8 o'clock Eastern here on Spreaker, or you can catch the archive show at RELICS Radio on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and many other podcast outlets. RELICS Radio is also syndicated on the Cutting Edge Radio Network and is broadcast around the world. Please take a minute and hit the like button, and be sure and follow us so you'll get notifications of all of our upcoming broadcasts. You can also find us on YouTube at Digging with 7 or Tennessee Jeff, or you can check us out on our RELICS Radio Facebook group page or Adventures in History on Facebook. If you'd like to get in touch with us, then send an email to relicsradio@outlook.com. We'd love to hear from you. We hope that you'll join us next Thursday night, and until then, get out there and dig some history.